afternoon, and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding the light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. We couldn't really have more Black excellence than what we are going to have today, because we are going to talk about Black is Beautiful, the Kwame Brathwaite story, having its US premiere at Doc NYC, with British and Nigerian docu-film director YEMI Bamiro, BAFTA and RTS winning producer JOANNA BOATEN, as well as Kwame Jr. and ROBYNN BRATHWAITE, son and daughter-in-law of the iconic, yet little-known photographer, artivist, and really the initiator of the Black is Beautiful movement. Thank you for being here with us today. Welcome to My Harlem Portraits.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, I watched the film last night and I found it absolutely amazing. It's a piece of history that was absolutely missing. It's a piece of the cultural hub that is Harlem that was missing. And so what you did with this is to fill a very, very big gap. And in this moment, especially where Black culture is under attack, is the best thing that could happen. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So to all of you, what is the film about, and what prompted you, Kwame and ROBYNN, to shed the light on your father's work and engage YEMI and JOANNA to come on board? To YEMI and JOANNA, what made you embark in this mission?
So for us, we really wanted to tell the story. And let me first say thank you so much for having us on the program.
Thanks for it.
Thank you.
We really wanted to tell the story and really amplify the work that we had done thus far around bringing the book out in 2019 around my father's story, and having the opportunity to work with Misfits Entertainment and Wayfarer and Creative Coalition to bring this story to life was really just a dream come true for us. So we always wanted to really work with a team and tell the story in the right way, right? I think making the film independently allowed us to do that, and finding Misfits, who then found YEMI and JOANNA, was really a blessing, because we're working and archiving this work, and we didn't know the steps that we need to take to bring a film like this to life, but we really were fortunate to be able to find these partners.
Yes. And I think that once we just started to archive the work, the two of us, as we got deeper into it and started to learn history that we didn't even know, we realized the depth and the breadth of it, and how important it was we didn't want to keep this, piece of Black history in a storage room. I mean, people needed to understand these stories, understand this history, learn about the people in these images, and we just felt like it was something that we couldn't just, keep to ourselves, that we needed to share it. And I think that that the way that this film came about, and the way that they artistically made this such, artistically beautiful film, was the perfect way to do it. So.
And I mean, you had a lot of archive, because 500,000 pictures. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine where to
and we're
still doing it.
Yeah. Do it. We're just a small portion.
It's a lifetime work.
Lifetime,
yes, it really is.
YEMI and JOANNA.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was approached to produce a film after Misfits and YEMI were able to get the funding together. So completely, as Kwame said, independently financed, which is, a really tricky thing, increasingly trickier thing to do
Yeah.
in this climate. And Yemi had drawn together a really gorgeous treatment that included loads of Kwame's work. And I was stunned that I didn't know about Kwame myself. I was familiar with some of his photography, but I realized as I was reading the treatment that I didn't know who took these photos. I didn't know the story behind the photos. And clearly there was something really special there that needed to be uncovered. So I immediately said yes. I'd love to work on it. I'd love to work with Yemi. I'd love to work with the Braithwaites. And after a short while, I was off to Pasadena to meet Kwame and Robin and in LA and digging through the archives. And, as it became apparent that there was a lot of photography to get through, there was a really rich life that we needed to kind of dissect and understand. But yeah, it was after reading the treatment and realizing that there was a gap in my own knowledge that I decided immediately to say yes and work on it.
Yeah, so one of the producers, Lizzie Gillett, sent me an email about 3 years ago and basically told me that there was the possibility of making this project. I was instantly interested. I had the book, so I had awareness of Kwame and his work. And then we went into paid development, and during that paid development period, I got the chance to go and meet Kwame and Robin in California, and I saw a little bit of the archive. And yeah, I guess that made me super excited because to see this stuff that no one had ever seen before was just mind blowing to me, and it was just crazy to me that like. It was just in their house, like, poems written to Bob Marley, all of these incredible pictures. I was so excited when I first met them about the potential and the possibility of what this film could become. So yeah, it feels like a real blessing to be talking to you now, like, so it's been 2.5 years of really amazing work, but it's been a privilege to sort of like work with these guys and to sort of like bring this film to life.
Yeah, and it's an amazing thing that you did there. Tell me about a little bit the history behind your father, because he has done so much. I mean, he has traveled the world at the center point with very famous people who had seen his work and they just wanted him. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's interesting because, he starts his photography career at the age of 18, right? It's just to find your passion that early in your life is just a real blessing, right? And something that he really, originally self-taught and just really just developed his craft. And so I think for him, that background of being in a group of creatives that form this collective and they were listening to jazz, and jazz is the impetus, right? It sparks the passion. And he's taking pictures in these nightclubs and really recording, documenting what they're doing. But then, the social issues come up. So you have the Emmett Till, and then you have like, okay, how do we respond to this? And how do we do it as proud people of who we are and where we're from? And through that entire process, he built his career of documenting the things that are around culture, right? And culture is not just, protesting in the streets. Culture is the music, it's the lifestyle, it's everyday life of normal people, and it's all the things that are happening. And so even at one point, Robin said he's almost like Forrest Gump because he's like going through these pivotal moments in history and he's there, right? And I laugh. I was just doing a talk earlier today, and I said, people said he must have cloned himself because it always seemed like he was everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
And so being able to understand how important it is to document this work and this history, but then carrying that through and then having the relationships with the Muhammad Ali's and the Diana Ross and Michael Jackson and all the different people, Stevie Wonder, Bob Marley, that then because they are, and we're getting to that a little bit now, but I think a lot of the artists like had no choice but to reflect the times, right? And really help push the narrative forward around equality and justice and doing those things. And so it was a really big part of his core, and being able to do that and go to Africa and be in the continent and help these, countries gain their liberation. All those things were so important to him because it was about making sure that our culture was thriving and surviving and people felt proud of who they were. And so I think that is at the core of what he is. It's just this champion for us.
For equality and for, yes. I saw there were two moments because you talked about Emmett Till. When your mother was talking about the fact that seeing the casket, the open casket, those pictures of the torture that Emmett Till had gone through, made him decide he wanted to use photography as his language.
Yes.
And then during an interview he had with this white guy, I don't know who he was, he was crying.
Yeah.
He was so, still years and years later,
Yeah.
that really, really touched me.
Yeah, that was 2016 actually with Philip Martin, who actually is the gallerist that represents the work, and he helped us with the archival process. And the first place he took us was to the Getty Archives.
Yeah.
Right. And so that relationship was built. And so that was actually his first time, showing his work in California and being, in conversation. And so, yeah, it was really amazing to understand how deeply that impacted him, because even at that moment during the talk, he gets emotional. And so you see how passionate he was about the work that he was doing.
Yeah.
Yes. And ROBYNN, how difficult was for you to participate in all this? You were, because I saw that you were researching everything and you couldn't find anything. And when the Smithsonian didn't show anything about your father-in-law and your father, you went to look and see why and so on, which is incredible that nothing was there. How was it for you?
Well, I mean, honestly, it was when we first started this entire process, it was, Kwame would really, we live in LA. And so Kwame would go to New York, get negatives and bring them back to LA. And I was I've always been the person kind of behind the scenes. I would start doing the scanning, and I help with like the entire like printing process and production process and everything. And so
she makes everything work. I'm just
Hey, that's what women do.
Right, exactly.
I mean, hey. I don't want to say it, but
it's the truth.
Right.
It is. So yeah, when we first started to research everything, like you said, there was not a lot out there. So we had to really dig into the archive and start to piece everything together. And it's with the curators, honestly, that we've worked with too, that have done some amazing research. And finding Tanisha, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And so it's, we've felt, I think, incredibly led in this entire process. I mean, I can't tell you just, even Kwame was talking about the person, Philip, that we met, we met him because our kids were friends in preschool, and that's how we met. And so it's just, we really feel like the pieces just kind of really fell together once we made the decision to do this. And so, it has been hard, but the relationships that we have with different people really we've been blessed in that way, that it really made this process a lot smoother than I think that it could have been. But yeah, it was, we really had to build this because there was nothing about this before. And so we did have to do our research and figure out ways to get the story out there. So yeah, it's been great, but challenging at times.
Challenging. Yemi and Joanna, I read that you saw a very big shift to do this this film because the climate has changed so much from when you started to now in the perception and the way, the overt way that people of colors, black and brown people are seen and represented today or are not represented. So how influential was that, and what was the result? What made you do? Did you feel like, oh, we can do that, or it was like a even more push for you to do? We need to get this done.
Yeah, I think that when we started to make this film, I always felt that we were making like a fascinating sort of like film about this incredible man that made this really significant contribution to African American art and
Mm-hmm.
history and culture. And I think over the years of us making this, I think, yeah, there was definitely a shift whereby the contributions of African American people, Black and Brown people, were being marginalized, diminished, sort of like put to the side. And I guess that it made the process of making this film even more important. But like that, that happened while we were making the film. So like we never deviated or responded to anything that was happening sort of like in society. I think it just, you know, the importance and the significance of this film just became more important, right? I always say that this film doesn't really apologize for what it is, right? It doesn't shy away from putting its head above the parapet and say this is who Kwame was. This is Black life. This is Black culture. This is the contribution of us. And I just think it's more significant now because of what's going on in the world, you know? So, like, I don't think anything changed for us. We were always making this portrait of this amazing man. But I think, yeah, like we weren't in control of what was happening outside. It just kind of like made our film feel a little bit more urgent and necessary to sort of like get it out into the world and sort of like let people know, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, the story was always the story. Kwame's life was always his life, but it was fascinating and interesting to feel things shift around us as we continued on the path I guess we were always going to take.
Mm.
And yeah, simple declarations that felt kind of normal at the beginning. Black is beautiful
Mhm.
feel different now that
Mm.
we're in a very different space politically. And as Yemi says it now, it made the film feel more urgent and really needed as well. There's a balm there. It's about joy and it's about beauty. And it's important because of what's happening around us. But yeah, as I say, it never changed what the film was always going to be.
That's very important, actually.
Mm.
One more question about how difficult must have been for your family, including your mother, your cousin. I saw your cousin very emotional. Uh, your uncle passed at a certain point, and your father and your uncle were really, really close. How difficult has it been to expose this privacy of your family to do this film?
Yeah. So look, I think it's in the 13 years that we've been doing this work, we have had, we are disseminating information as we see fit, right? We've had full control over like what the narrative is in the story. And also, I think we've released maybe 300 images in the 13 years that we've done this, right? So it's always been very methodical and very, very intentional. And I think for us, we're very private people.
Yeah.
So it was very difficult. Yemi and Joanna were amazing.
Yeah.
And in being patient with us, because again, we started this process in, 2023. It's a few months after my father had passed. And so not only was it that we're private people, both Robin especially and my mother, super private, I recognized that, as his son, I had already, relegated to the fact that I'm out and about. I'm out in the world, right? So people know, but that's very different than opening up your home and this archive and the family to the other parts of like that notoriety or whatever it is. And so it's a very vulnerable space to be in. And to have partners like Yemi, Joanna, Misfits, Wafer, like all understanding that we are going through these things while we're saying yes, but no, but wait, hold on, and all of the trepidation that we have around being that vulnerable, right, in order to tell a really authentic story. Um, it was difficult at times, and it was something that we really had to work through as an immediate family, as an extended family, um, because it's oftentimes very difficult. I think, other than myself, my Alambe Jr., he very much was, he likes to tell the story and share this work, but I think it can be a vulnerable space to be that open about what's happening, and even, ultimately the demise of both your uncle and your father, and like those things are very, they're touching subjects, and so it was
Yeah,
it was a task.
yeah, I think, and there's a part in the doc where Tanisha says this is family work. And I think this documentary sums that up. Like, I think it reflects that. And, at first, when we thought about doing a documentary, because of how rich Baba's life was, we were just like, oh, they're going to talk about all the different places that he went. And, like, they're going to talk about all these historical events. Great. And then we began to realize, like, oh, okay, so this is about us. This is about our family.
Right.
And so like Kwame said, I am a very private person, but I think what's so incredibly beautiful about the film is that it does reflect that this is family work, and that it takes all of us, and that I think, as I've seen different people's reactions to the film, they, some people are just, really resonate with Kwame's mom and her role, or the father-son relationship, or there are just so many different aspects of the film that people resonate with, that it just makes it that much better and richer. And I understand now exactly why that needed to be done, even though I didn't at the beginning.
You resisted.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
yeah, and I think you want to, for us, it's just like we feel the weight of this art, the importance of this archive, and we want to protect it and do right by Baba and everything that he represented. So for us, that was, that's the stance that we've always taken. And it takes a lot of trust to let somebody else tell the story. But again, like I said, we can't keep this in a storage room. We've got to share the story, and we have to trust the people, that we've, brought on to tell it. And I think I think they did an amazing job.
Did an amazing job.
Yeah.
To you, Yumi, and Joanna. During the making of the film, first of all, you have the testimonies of, as I said, your mom and your cousin, but also of very important politically and socially engaged stars of today, people I admire, like ALICIA KEYS, her husband, SWIZZ BEATZ, GABRIELLE UNION, Jesse Williams, who made an incredible speech years ago when he got a Tony.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Tyler Mitchell. SWIZZ BEATZ said that a lot of people like to collect our pain as their trophies.
Mm.
And what Kwame did was to show the other side, the side that is never shown, the beauty, the geniality, the genius and the excellence of the Black culture, which is the reason why I'm doing this show.
Mhm.
How did you go about choosing the different stages? Because I mean, you start with Harlem, and the voiceover says Harlem 1956, the bottom of the ladder, where the inhabitants live behind double bars of poverty and their black skin.
Mm.
But Kwame considered this the most amazing place in the world, Mecca of Black culture. You start with that. Tell us a little bit how you went about. Then you were talking about the famous ladder where Marcus Garvey was talking, the creation by Kwame and his brother of the African Jazz Art Society group, and then the Grandassa Models. I never heard about that before. All this is very important. Tell us a little bit about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like even your question, they're like, there's so much to sort of like, there's so much to unpack. But
Sorry.
no, it's an amazing question. The point is that Kwame lived many lives, right? He sort of like navigated loads of different lanes. He never stayed still. He always sort of, innovated. He always sort of like responded to what was going on for him emotionally and creatively. And I think that your question was how did we sort of like navigate all of that? Like the point is that it was a challenge. I've said so many times that like this film could have been a four-part docu-series because it could have been.
Wait, because you did that. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, it could have been a four-part series, because there's so much story. Like myself, Joanna, Lawimbo, Otto, like all of us in the edit, we would always sort of like joke about how much story there was, right? And like what a challenge that was. Like what can we leave out? Like, but we only had 95 minutes to tell this like really comprehensive, coherent story that needed to be informative, that needed to be compelling, that needed to be entertaining, and it was impossible for us to throw everything in. So yeah, that was a huge challenge, but it was a challenge that we were always, it made us giddy because it was like you're just in his amazing life and you get an understanding of who he was and like the contributions that he made and like how can we sort of like mold all of this into like the film? So it was a challenge, but it was fun. It was an amazing sort of, thing to be a part of, right?
I mean, there were so many different versions
Yeah,
as well
exactly. Yeah,
from
yeah, there was so
the edit,
yeah.
which is with a story as rich and as deep
Mm,
as this is exactly what you need. So we were lucky enough to be given that and given the resources to do that. But
yeah,
I mean, the edit suite was covered in photos and post-it notes and
yeah,
books strewed across the table and
yeah,
there were loads of really intense conversations about what should and shouldn't make it,
yeah,
why one plot point should be where it is and not somewhere else. It was really painstaking, very slow work, which it needed to be necessarily because again, like Kwame, just so much happened in his life, and we were trying to condense a long and rich and fascinating life into 95, 100 minutes. And it was, so we made sure that everything that we did had purpose and
yeah.
every decision that was made sense, and that takes time and loads of spirited conversations that we were excited to go wake up and go and have because we felt privileged to even be working on this.
Yeah, like whenever we had those conversations, like a couple of sessions where we would sort of like come to the edit suite, I'd always bring donuts
Yeah.
because I knew that like I would knew that we're just gonna be
Sugar.
yeah, like donuts because we're gonna be here for a long time. This is gonna be frustrating. We're gonna be banging our head against the wall. So let's just have some sugar and like let's like that's literally how it was, right?
Yeah.
First of all, one thing, mentioning the four-part series, because you have done a four-part series, Fight the Power, How Hip Hop Changed the World, on PBS here. I saw it. It's a fantastic, I didn't know it was you. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
amazing. So maybe you could, you know. Never too late. You can always ask. So to all of you, what was the result? Do you feel that Black genius, Black creativity, and Black freedom has prevailed during this film, and that Kwame's legacy will now receive the place it deserves and empower future generations?
I would like to think so. I think that I'd like to think that this film has played some small part in helping that, because it's not, this is just one point in it's a continuation of the work that Kwame and Robyn have been doing for well over a decade now, you know. And it's, again, as I say, it's a privilege to be able to be, for us as filmmakers in a very meta way, like to be part of that story, you know. So I think, you know, our skill is in being able to make a film about this work that they're doing, essentially, and it's work that will continue. So yes, yes, it does highlight Black excellence and genius and you know, Kwame's incredible work, and puts him in his rightful place in history, but that's only because this is work that started before us and is going to continue after.
Yeah, I agree. It's just been an amazing privilege to sort of like delve into this. You know, the whole time that I was making this film with these guys, I was thinking about my daughters. Like, so one of my oldest daughter's 8, and my youngest daughter's gonna be 1 on Saturday, right?
Oh,
Yeah. So I can't wait for them to sort of like see the film, get an understanding of like the Grandassa models. You know, I was the whole time I was making this film, I was thinking about legacy. And that's what Kwame and Robyn have been doing, right? You know, Kwame's legacy, and it's getting that legacy out into the world. So there are just so many parallels, and like, you know, I said to Kwame, it's been the privilege of my life to sort of like be a part of this. And yeah, like I'm just so excited that it's, you know, beginning its life now, and that people are gonna find this film. Yeah.
Kwame and Robyn, last words.
I think definitely you know, obviously we're still have so much work to do, and we just, you know, want this legacy to continue. But I thought something that was beautiful that came out of this too is that someone approached me after the most recent viewing of the film that we had, and they were like, you inspired me to go, you know, talk to my parents and, you know, archive our family photos. And I think that's part of the legacy too. It's just the importance of preserving your family's history and stories. And I think especially in the Black community, sometimes you don't have people that will help you with that, or you know, we talked to one group of women that were saying there's so much Black history that's being lost because it's not being archived, and it's not, you know, some people don't have people in their lives to do that for them. So I think to the extent that we can be a resource for other people, and that people are inspired to kind of preserve these stories and share them, I think that's really important. So that's part of the legacy as well.
Yeah, I echo that. I think it is legacy work, and it's really important. I think this film is an incredible piece of that, and of us telling a story, and you know, getting out to more people, and again, you know, this places my father within the historical framework, and then there are other people who were missed. So again, like you said, like there's now younger people who were our age who are just thinking like, oh, I need to get on this. I need to help my parents. And so I love the fact that it's inspiring that type of work. I often from some of the elders, they're always like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you've done this. I got to do this, you know, start thinking about this as well. And I think, again, preserving these stories, exposing people to others who were doing amazing work as well during those same time periods, it enables us to broaden our awareness of how deep and how much culture there is, not just for the work that my father and their collective were doing, but just with that throughout, right? Spending time in these spaces, you get to see all those connections. And so I love the connections that are being made through this legacy.
Yeah, it's really a historical piece, and it's wonderful. So I thank you very much. For those who are seeing this conversation, will see this conversation and are intrigued by this movie, go to Doc New York City to see it and to catch this conversation and others previous in my program, please go to My Harlem Portraits on YouTube. Please subscribe and share, because only by sharing, if you share this conversation, more people will know about what's going on in Harlem, in America, in the Black community. And that's what I only want that. So thank you so much. Thank you to our viewer. See you next time, 12:30 p.m. on Spectrum, channel 1993. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Great.